They say in life, the only answers you get are to the questions you ask, and we want you to be able to ask your questions. I want you to go to MREAnotes.com, and when you do, you are going to see a voice memo app that's going to allow you in your own voice to record your question. Then I will be playing these questions live on our special 50th episode and answering them, and I couldn't be more excited. Friends, the only thing missing from this episode is you. So go to MREAnotes.com and record your question today. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top, and how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. There is this dream out there that I'm going to own a team, and it's only going to have a handful of people on it, but those people are going to be wildly productive. Now, there's this other dream, which is I'm going to have a bunch of people on the team, and they're all going to be wildly productive. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Friends, we're going to be talking with a mega agent that has done over $1 billion in sales. And what she's going to share with us is exactly how to build a team where each member on it does at least $6 million in volume every year. This means everybody on the team is winning and everybody is highly productive. I am talking then none other than Adelina Rotar. Friends, she is an absolute dynamo, and she breaks this down in such a way that everybody will leave with absolute clarity. Whether it was being a Keller Williams team leader or being a mega team owner, one thing is certain. She knows exactly what she's doing, she knows exactly why she's doing it, and she gets the result that she wants. Friends, sit back and buckle up. This is Adelina Rotar. Adelina, how are you?
I'm good, Jason.
So, Adelina, here's the deal. Everybody in the real estate industry, as far as I'm concerned, either knows you, pieces of you, has seen you on stages because you've been on all of them. And we're going to talk about what y'all do so well because you crush it. But I want to kind of back up because no one starts there. So tell me this. How did you end up in the greatest industry in the world?
I know, right? Well, the reason people see us is we've been around way too long and we're just getting older every day. Wow. So the real estate industry, I guess to get to the real estate industry, let's work backwards on why that made sense to me. I was born in Eastern Europe in Romania during the communist era, and we immigrated to the US before I started elementary school. I've always just loved systems, probably because one of the first systems I had to learn is how do you learn a new language? And so I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and was introduced to the real estate industry.
Okay, just stop the tape, because Romania to Knoxville, Tennessee sounds like the culture shock of all culture shocks. What was that like?
So it was through Chicago. So talk about culture shock. So I came from a city in Romania where we got hot water once a week. It was Saturday, and that was, you just filled up the bathtub and you got whatever you needed done. And then you go to Chicago. I think there was 3, 4, 5 million people. My parents were like, this is not the place for us. So they started driving down 75 and got to the 75 and 40 intersection, which is Knoxville, Tennessee, because it was a small town back then and it felt better.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So now you're in Knoxville and the first thing you have to learn is the language and then just how to navigate life.
How to navigate life. And one of the things you learn, I think, as an immigrant is taking opportunities. And so one of those first opportunities, I was sitting in my marketing class in 10th grade, Mrs. Seymour's class, and she had a connection for me. She said this mid-sized real estate brokerage was looking for a receptionist. And here I was, 16 years old, and I thought, oh my gosh, what a great job. And so I took that job, and over the next 2 years, I stayed there for 2 years. I just worked my way up. I just learned transaction management and just really everything. I got promoted to office manager. And so I was going to school 7 a.m. to 12. My AP European history class started at 7, so I could leave early. It was great. And then I'd go to the real estate office from 12:30 to 5. And then I would work at a tanning salon after that, because we didn't come from money, right? Immigrants usually don't. And so I bought my first car that way. I was pretty much financially independent at that stage of my life. And I wasn't even 18 yet. I was actually paying taxes while in high school. It's just, now that I think about it, I'm like, why was I doing anyway? But that broker owner who hired me, he has since passed, but he was such a great mentor to me, Jason. He was really instrumental in showing me the business opportunity of real estate. I would have just gotten my MBA and done something completely different. And so I graduated early from high school, got my real estate license at 18, got a full scholarship to UT Knoxville, but I went full in on real estate instead. And there's some caveats there. Like, this is not something that I'm like, this is what you should do. But number one, I felt I could really do it. Number two, I really needed the money. I don't think people should skip college if they're not going to work like 60 to 80 hours a week for a long time to make it. So that's where my real estate career started. Started as a solo agent.
And do you have immediate success?
You know what? I did. And I'll tell you, because I had no life balance. So I did work all the time. I mean, I was 18 years old. What else would I do? So my focuses were Sphere and open houses. There wasn't one weekend where I wasn't doing 1 to 2 open houses a day. And there wasn't anyone at my church or any of my friend groups that didn't know that I was in real estate. I sold 28 properties that first year. And I really just worked. Like, that is all I did. And so I think if you just put in the time, I mean, I don't know that you have to be that good. You just have to want to help people.
Let's visit this idea of being 18 and doing 28 real estate transactions. Didn't people say to you, you're a kid? Like, what do you know about this?
No, I mean, I feel like I kind of looked like this since I was 18. So I just dressed the part, honestly. I'm friends with a lot of my original clients. And they're like, we knew we were young, but I didn't know how young. And we weren't going to ask because you were doing such a great job. And so I'm like, well, how young did you think I was? And they're like, I think you were like probably like 22. And I'm like, I was willing to bet on a 22-year-old. And, you know, here we are.
There it is. So how do you end up in Texas running one of the biggest teams in the country?
So I was a solo agent 7 years. And then I was invited to a KW mega camp by another KW agent. This was back in Knoxville. And I came to KW because I wanted to grow a team. I had already done the solo route, knew what I could do alone, wanted to build a team, and did not feel that I could do so at my current brokerage. And so when I joined KW, I started building a team. Actually, some of the first agents on my team back then, they're still in the real estate industry today and still killing it. I was then invited to be a team leader in Oklahoma City. And so we went from being a solo agent, then we went to being the top producer under 30 in Knoxville, and then it was team leader time. And I accepted the team leader position. I was just 27, so I don't know that I would hire me again, honestly, because oh my gosh, what do you know at 27? But it gave me really great experience around 4 core things: recruiting, coaching, business development, and business operations. I had done those things at a much smaller scale in my business, but to really do it at a big brokerage level scale, recruiting, coaching, business development, and business operations, that was something I needed because I wasn't going to get that experience another way unless it took a really long time. Remember, I was sitting on Mo Anderson's couch and she asked, "Darlin, do you know the number one job of a team leader?" And of course, Jason, we're sitting there and I'm like sitting across from the queen of culture. And I said, "Culture." And she said, "No, the number one job of a team leader is growth. And so I hired 120 agents in the first 12 months. In that role, in that city, I didn't know anyone. And even when we moved to Austin, we moved end of 2015 to Austin. It was a dream of mine to move to a big city, have my kids go to Acton. I took that lesson of growth with me, and I think that really paved the path of where we are today. I partnered with Place, as you know, and launched a team in Austin, recruited 10 agents right away, and a few are still with the company today. I'll tell you, our first 6 months in the business here, we closed 8 whole deals, not even enough for one per person. But the next 6 months, we got it together, closed 92 deals. 4 years later, we were closing 350 deals. We'll hit $1 billion in sales since we started this year. And that initial $30,000 investment, because there's a $30,000 cash that we put into the business, turned into like $25 million in revenue, 4.5 in profit. So cash is king, profit is vital, and here we are.
It's astounding to think about. And to unpack a couple of the things you said, number one, if you're wondering who Mo is, because we have people that listen from all different industries, Mo Anderson was the CEO of Keller Williams at a time when it was growing to become the largest real estate company under one brand in the world. And if you haven't heard her episode of this show, go do that. I mean, she unpacks leadership at an amazing level. The next thing that you said that caught me, Adelina, is you said, I learned 4 things being a team leader. In Keller Williams, a team leader means you're running and growing that office. You're the CEO of one of those offices. And Gary Keller, who together with Jay Papasan and Dave Jenks wrote the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is the namesake for this show, once told me, he said, Jason, when you go become the team leader of one of our locations, which have an average 250 people in them, you get a master's degree in recruiting, coaching, business development, and business operations. Said differently, you hack the people math because you're leading 250 people, which instantly makes you a ninja, a Jedi when it comes to people. And Adelina, tell me, but you and I are just in the people development business.
Right. People are our greatest asset. And the better we get at leading people, the better our lives are.
I love that. So y'all do an incredible amount of business. What's the thing that y'all do so well that keeps moving this thing forward?
Yeah, I thought about what is it that we could talk about today that I feel that is moving us forward. And I thought about our culture of productivity. To have each agent on your team close 6 million or more a year, that's it. We could talk about a lot of things, but creating a way for each of your agents to close 6 million or more every year, that's it for us.
Okay, before you go into it, you don't have to take notes out there. I'm taking the notes. So all you have to do is go to MREAnotes.com, put in your email address. We email out the notes every Thursday. So every Thursday, the show comes out Monday, the notes come out Thursday. You will get Adelina's secrets for every agent on the team to do 6 million in production, which, by the way, Adelina, if you pull this off, you will have changed so many lives because that is a giant thing. So tell me exactly how to do that.
Yeah. And we do pull it off. So it's not something I'm hoping and praying for. And that's okay. If you're in the hoping and praying for stage, that is a great place to start. And that's why we need systems and models. So 3 ways, right? Number 1, recruiting to your values. Number 2, business development meetings that move your agents' businesses forward. And then number 3, team meetings that activate people. And so I would write this down if you are taking notes. Culture starts with growth. It's nurtured with care, but it is driven by productivity. You can absolutely love the people you're in business with, but you are a business. It starts with growth. It's nurtured with care. It's driven by productivity. And so if human capital is our biggest asset, and it sounds kind of weird because we have 1099 people, right? Yet the happy customers of each of those agents is our biggest and best sales force because our database is our business. And so when you connect all those dots, you realize that creating a culture of productivity through recruiting, through your business development meetings, and through your team meetings, those are the building blocks of creating that $6 million business for each of your individual agents. So recruit, develop, and lead. Recruit is the growth part of culture. Business development meetings are the care part of culture. And then team meetings are the productivity activation part of culture. I want to give you a couple of bullet points. But before I do, one thing that I see a lot of within our friend groups is productivity dips when the CEO delegates important responsibilities that are CEO responsibilities or abdicates their role altogether. And what I mean by that is if you think of yourself as a small business or a big business, the Small Business Administration says a small business is a business with 40 million or less in revenue. Revenue is GCI. So a lot of us, almost all of us, are small businesses. And a small business can't afford to not stay relevant with their people and stay engaged with their people. So I say all this and it sounds like, oh, that kind of may be boring. That's what you kind of signed up for in the people business.
This idea, you just brought up a really big idea, that they define the business administration a small business of 40 million in revenue. What I find sometimes is in the real estate world, they'll get to $1 million in revenue or $1.5 million in revenue and then think they've arrived. And suddenly, Adelina, we're not growing anymore.
Yeah, so that's where we flatline. And the problem with, you're never really flatlining because then a market like ours shows up and you're not flat, you're going backwards a lot. And so I always think of myself as a small business and I wear that proudly, not like, it's not even a humble statement. It's, we are a small business. And if it's not me, it's got to be someone as good as me leading that team because a small business needs relevant, like local leadership.
I love that. Okay. Number one, recruit to our values. What does that mean?
Okay, so recruiting to your values, what it does and how it creates productivity is it increases your retention on the front end. And stick with me. Recruiting to your values creates productivity because it increases your retention on the front end. You're looking for people who have the potential to function well on a team and produce sustainable results. Not everyone can function well on a team. So in my world, I do need people who want to and to function well on a team. And so we've all heard the hungry, humble, smart, right? But I want to dig into how I define hungry, humble, smart, and what I'm listening for to know who I am getting into business with. Hungry. My definition of hungry is not desperation. Hungry is, are they diligent and are they self-motivated? Here's how I determine it. I determine it by listening to their goals and asking myself, am I the path for them towards their preferred future? I'm listening for their energy and their passion because I don't want to get unmotivated people. Unmotivated people are extremely hard to lead. I'm listening for examples when they've invested themselves into something because I'm trying to determine like what does their work ethic look like? I'm listening for patterns in what they say. Like, was this a one-time thing or is a strong work ethic and their diligence and their self-motivation just part of their character? I'm listening for red flags like, does this person have to be told what to do? Do they give up prematurely? And are they blaming others? And so that's what I look at when I'm thinking like, are they hungry? It's not like, do they need to make a buck tomorrow? It's all of those other things. If I jump into humble, it's not like, are they humble braggers, right? Are they individualistic or are they team players? So I'm listening to how do they say that they accomplished the tasks and the goals that they set? Is it all I did it or is it giving credit to others naturally? Do they mention mentors along the way? Did anybody help them get there? When they mess up and fail, like, do they own their DNA? Can they tell like unflattering stories about themselves and just be comfortable being honest and imperfect? I'm listening to how they accepted responsibility and how they learned from it. So that's what humble looks like to me. Then if I move into smart, like how am I defining smart? It's not an IQ. It's not even necessarily maybe EQ. It's, are they appropriate and aware? I determined this by listening to how they describe their experiences and how well they know themselves, right? Smart people are introspective, they're self-aware. When I ask questions, they're not necessarily stumped, they're not superficial. And in their past experience, you're listening for resourcefulness, you're listening for like that get it done ability. And people who are hungry, humble, and smart, what they have in common, they're coachable. Coachable people don't require you, Jason, to convince them of your value proposition, of your model, of your system every single day. With the current market dynamics, the only thing I've added since then is identifying willingness. And I identify willingness because it is a very difficult market we're in. Are they full-time? Are they professional? Do they want to be part of a team? And so the way I kind of paint this picture to them is I say something along the lines of, Jason, we are going to treat you like a top producer. If we treat you like a new agent, Jason, you're going to make new agent money. And that's no money at all. Are you ready for that? Are you excited about that? And so initially I hired brand new agents because, hello, we are a brand new team. And it's okay if someone's in that position. You got to start somewhere. And then as you have success stories, you tend to attract just that higher level of agent who may be looking for that 5-star career with the time to enjoy it.
This makes perfect sense to me. This idea that I have to find the right people. Because I see all the time, Adelina, I see people rush out. They grab anybody. If you can fog a mirror, you're in. And then they look up and they don't get the results they want. And then they start beating themselves up like, well, I'm not good at leading.
Well, here's the deal. Like, it does take talking to enough people. I remember my initial people, I talked to 300 to get my first 10, right? So it didn't just naturally happen. I didn't get lucky. In fact, luck plays a big part in a lot of things, but you got to do the work before the luck shows up. I think about this and I think, oh gosh, I feel like sometimes we're beating a dead horse because it's like recruit. But think about the NFL. I think about them and they literally spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year to recruit players. And do you know that only 53% of their draft picks actually play?
Isn't that so crazy? And they have rooms full of statisticians and figuring out who's going to make it.
Absolutely. So if they're doing that and they're only getting a 53% return, if you will, on talent, then you have to have enough talent in your organization to be able to succeed. And the average tenure of an NFL player right now is down to 2.9 years. And so people are not going to stay with you forever. So you've got to make sure that you get the right people in so that when people have life changes, you're not handcuffed, you're not held hostage, you just continue building a business and you do it with the people that you have in front of you. You got to protect your business by recruiting the right people.
Makes perfect sense. So I got to recruit to my value, and you defined how you do that. Great. Number 2 was, business development that moves people ahead. What does that mean?
Business development looks like 3 different ways in our business. Number 1, we have launching agents. Number 2, we have developing agents. Number 3, we have performing agents. And I want to just kind of drill down what it looks like for each group, because your team may have a bunch of this group or maybe diverse group. So launching agents who are launching their career with us, they follow a prescribed 30, 60, 90 with milestones along the way. And the way we're moving their business forward is by ensuring that they're doing the business building activities in that 30, 60, 90. They're mastering the buyer and the seller experience presentations. They're mastering the contracts, and they have a great attitude while doing it. The objective in that 30, 60, 90 launch period is to get them into productivity through learning the habits, the activity, and the skills needed to launch their career in the real estate industry. What that looks like is they're coached weekly, it's in a group setting, and we're available to them, of course, all the time and on Slack. There's 2 key things that I tell agents in this group. Activity doesn't pay you, productivity pays you. Activity is the path to productivity, but the win is the appointment with the client. The way you win the week is you set an appointment that you hold. Number 2 thing we talk about is activity can burn you out, but productivity rarely will. So scaling up while doing the activity is the difference between burnout and breakthrough. You got to skill up while you are doing your activity. That's where going into the office and scripting with others, being around other people. I know we've got virtual offices everywhere, but sometimes you got to just connect so you can skill up faster. All right, let's go to developing agents. So developing agents who are developing their career with us, what they're doing is they're building their productivity cadences, and they develop a 6-figure career as a result. So the objective to coach them in this group is to coach them to consistent productivity on how to move potential clients through the sales cycle. Developing agents is all about helping them build out their business by getting their clients through the sales cycle and moving people through the pipeline, which often means, Jason, if I'm in there with them, we're pulling up their database, we're going through their hots, we're going through their nurtures. We place just a great emphasis on visiting their business plan, identifying where they've got to be for this month, and what's going well, where the opportunities are. The whole goal of developing an agent is to get them to a predictable income, predictable business, predictable. They're coached either weekly or bi-weekly, whatever their preference is, and then we're available to them throughout. 2 things I tell this group of people very often is sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. You just can't light a fire with a wet match. And so the way you show up determines how people will respond to you. That's not something that you see in the initial launch period, but you start to see it longer term. You've got to have the enthusiasm. The second thing we say is do whatever it takes for however long it takes, because the work that you put in today changes the course of your life forever. All of us have a story. I have a story. Each team leader on this call has a story. Drive it back to the things that you did to become successful and how it impacted the rest of your life. Then we have the third group, which is our performing agents. These are the agents who are closing 25 deals a year or 10 million a year. And so until they're performing at that level, they are developing their business to that level. My goal for this group is to be in business with them forever. I know I said you're not going to be in business forever, but I take that approach. The way we're moving their business forward is scaling around maximizing the staff and the resources they have, utilizing a showing partner, farming an area, just harnessing new opportunities. The whole objective here is to retain your top performers. And I coach them bi-weekly or monthly, whatever their preference is. The key thing here with your top performers specifically, you gotta make it feel like you're their partner and their consultant. Your role and my role is synthesizing all the information of their business and helping them move it forward better and faster than they would do it themselves.
I love all this, but I'm imagining the top agent out there who says, look, this is all great, but I'm going to have some people who aren't going to make it. And so does part of this include getting out of business with people that aren't willing to live like this?
I love that you said that, because if your attrition happens year 1, 2, 3, 5, like you didn't get out of business with people early enough. In the launch period is when you identify, remember the attitude part and like how they were working in our business. If it's not working out, Jason, I just say, hey, your goals last week were, you're going to have 75 contacts and you were going to host 3 open houses, and you had 20 contacts and you hosted 1 open house. And I just want to talk to you about that. Before we even jump into anything else, let's chat about it. Like, what's the missing piece here? Is this something you really want to do, so that you're not having those conversations a year later?
Got it. Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. Well, it sounds like if you're not seeing the behaviors early,
correct,
you're getting out of business.
Yes. And you're doing it very nicely. Like, you're not, just a terrible person about it. The reality is, the more high performers you start having on your team, they want the level of the team to match that. So it's not just the revolving door of let's just bring in people all the time, because that can dilute the energy on the team, right? Another thing that might be important for anyone who's listening is something that's impacted our retention at a high level is the correct language. So instead of calling yourself their coach, we call ourselves their business partner, People will change coaches often, right? But rarely do they change true business partners, right? Our attrition happens in that launching agent phase. It rarely happens in the developing agent phase, almost never happens in the performing agent stage. So every conversation you're having with them, it's about being a partner with them.
I love that. So then you have this team meeting that leads to action. What does that mean?
Yeah. So high performance teams don't just happen. You got to set up the right environment for people to rise to those heights. I do team meetings once a week on Mondays because I want to activate my people every week to the aerial view that we have. The rest of the week, we have training. That's really, really tactical. Mondays are my days to get macro to micro and to lead them. One of the things that I always think about is unmet expectations are often uncommunicated standards. And this is something that I get to go in front of them every single Monday and talk about my expectations, about our standards, right?
Do you hear how purposeful she is in everything she does? Even in the words she uses, they're so precise and exact. You know, Napoleon Hill wrote this book called Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read the book, the genius of it is the title, Think and Grow Rich. And Gary Keller always tells me, he says, Jason, everything starts with thinking. First we think, then we act. First we think, then we make movement. Thinking always comes first. It can be think and grow poor. It can be think and stay moderately successful. It's think and grow rich. In Adelina's case, it's think and hit the goal because everything she does is thinking, then acting. She starts with the goal, then she has a plan. Then she breaks it down to what matters most, and then here it is. She wins the day before noon. That's the equation for wildly successful people, and that's what you're hearing her say.
So if you build a consistency in meeting with your team every single week, you're building not just like how to do it, but you're building trust, you're building predictability and reliability with them. And here's the reason. Someone joins your team. You work so hard to get them, and now they're just kind of sitting there. And there's really no follow-up in leading. And there's not a consistency in leading the group as a whole. It starts to feel a little bit like you went to the airport and you got a rental car. Instead of they just checked in to your 5-star hotel. One feels transactional and one feels important. And what I want my people to get out of that Monday team meeting is that they are important enough to me that I'm going to spend the time every week to help them chart the path aerially and so that they can get their productivity consistent. People are just overtrained, they're over-communicated with. So my goal is to just activate them on what matters for that week. I want to tell them what they need to know. I want to show them how they need to think about it. I want to share what they can aim for. I want to celebrate their wins, promote the opportunities we've got. This is the time you revisit the vision. This is the time that you rekindle that culture. This is the time to reset expectations as a whole so that no one feels like you're like talking to them. This is the time you reestablish your KPIs. This is when you reinforce week after week after week what they need to know, how they need to think about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds wildly important. I mean, if you're going to lead a group of people, you have to have a venue by which to do it.
So there's 4 things. We call it the state of our people, the state of our business, the state of our growth, and the state of our market. That's what you're hitting every single team meeting. This isn't a feel good, like just hanging out. This isn't something I just roll up to the office Monday morning. This is very highly prepared because you're a leader to them, right? State of our people will be last week's shout outs, like team updates, happy hours and fun stuff, right? Top 20%. Top 10 in units and volume, right? Like you're talking about your people. State of your business, when you jump into that, that's going to be like, what's your social media content for the week? What's the giveaway that they can utilize for the week? What are the KPI updates? What are the business dashboards looking like? What are the listings coming up, right? What's the progress towards different things? Then you jump into the state of your growth, right? What are the production initiatives we have? What are some of the personal growth initiatives that you have? What are some operations initiatives? What are upcoming client events, upcoming media days, right? What upcoming trainings? And then you've got to do the state of the market. recap of how your city is growing, local stats and housing data, local rates and mortgage data, all of that, because people don't leave businesses, right? They leave people. And until I have a business that's big enough to have that CEO, I'm the CEO. I have to show up for my people consistently.
You hear me not saying much, Adelina, because you have gone from teaching to preaching, and you are spot on. I absolutely love the way that you think about it. You know what I'm taken with? For as big of the ideas as you're talking about are, you make them very granular to real estate. You're very specific on the things it takes to be successful as a real estate agent.
Correct. All of this is your opportunity to re-recruit your people and to get them into production. That's all you're thinking about. How do I re-recruit my people every week? How do I get them into production? And the way I would probably wrap this is my profit, and probably your profit, if you take out your personal sales, is directly impacted by creating that culture of productivity, right? We've had multiple breakdowns, breakthroughs, as everyone does. But we found that the number of quality people that you bring into your organization, the purposefulness behind your business development meetings, and the impact of your team meetings, those are going to be key building blocks in creating the culture of productivity so that your agents can close $6 million a year every year, no matter what's happening in the market.
Genius. Adelina, we want to thank you and invite you into our lightning round. So we want to ask you a series of questions. We want the first thing that comes into your mind. Will you play?
I will.
What is your favorite color?
Green.
What is your favorite food?
Curry.
Stop the lightning round. It's a first, friends. This is the first curry sighting that we've had. It's fantastic. All right, back in. Favorite movie?
Oh, you know what? I actually like trash TV.
Okay, favorite trash TV?
Oh my gosh, all of them. Survivor.
It's so good. How has it been this good for this long?
There's a lot of lessons there.
Oh my gosh. Talk about a business with longevity. Survivor has figured it out. They make just enough incremental changes to get me back.
This is how I feel about team meetings all the time. It's like, I'm saying the same thing. Just got to say it slightly different this week.
It's genius. Do you have a favorite vacation spot?
I do. It's really any beach. I love the beach.
Love that. Is there a book? It doesn't have to be a new one. It doesn't have to be MREA. Is there a book that you think everybody should read?
Yeah, I think so. 13 Fatal Errors That Managers Make and How to Avoid Them. And don't get hung up on the word managers. Just call it leaders. It's really good.
Great book, by the way. Is there a podcast, other than this one, of course, that you listen to regularly? Who's the voice in your head when you're podcasting?
I listen to How I Built This. Can't even tell you who that guy is, but they interview just a ton of people who are really successful.
Fantastic. Friends, there it is. Adelina, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything that you've done for the industry and for real estate agents, because I remember sitting in the audience and watching you on stage. And I, at that time, was building my team. And I remember the clarity that you had. And I looked up and I thought, this is someone who I want to model. And you changed my life. And so I am grateful.
Here we are. Thank you.
I told you from the start that she is absolutely unbelievable. The words that she uses, the command that she has over the things that she says, the depth by which she is thinking, the depth of which she's planning out the things she's going to do, all of it shines through for Adelina. You know, there's this great book. It's called A CEO Does Three Things. And ostensibly what it says is, number one, they do is vision. Let's be really clear. Adelina has a very clear vision. Each member on this team is going to do a minimum of $6 million in production. They are a highly productive group. Number two, a CEO has to make sure that the right people are in the right seats. It's a people business. She wants hungry, humble, and smart people. But here's the thing about Adelina. She's defined those words for herself. She knows what she wants those words to mean within the context of her business. So she gets her people at a very deep level. And then money. A CEO has to make sure that the money is right. She looks up and says, if you're stagnant and the market changes, you're actually going backwards, which means she thinks about money as a constant quest for growth. You want to know why Adelina Rotar is such a great CEO? Because she has a vision, she knows what she's looking for in people, and she's got her eye on the money. And by the way, that's the equation whether you're running a small, medium, or the largest businesses in the world. That's the genius of Adelina Rotar. Friends, go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week. And every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an autodialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.